On to something completely different. There are fresh warnings this morning that the real oil shock from the Iran war might only just be the beginning. The latest threat comes from Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels, who have vowed to block another of the world's critical shipping routes. It's called the el-Mandeb Strait.
Yeah, the move comes just days after Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz again, and now it's estimated the blocking of both straits would choke off almost 30% of global oil and gas shipments. And for more, we're joined now by Kevin Morrison, energy analyst with the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysts. Good morning to you. So these two vital straits have now been blocked off. What is that going to mean for us here?
Well, we don't directly import straight from the Middle East, but most of the oil that goes through the Middle East goes to refineries in Asia, and that's where we import pretty much 90% of all our oil needs. So it is important, and so it's narrowed the options where we can actually source the oil, because what will be allowed through is at the moment we've got the Houthis, which control this area in the northeast of Yemen, and so they're threatening to block any Saudi oil, which is the majority of the oil that comes through there, and that was a backup option when the Strait of Hormuz was closed. You see.
Okay, so we've learned all about the Strait of Hormuz in the last few months. So this one's here, the el-Mandeb Strait, which a lot of Australians would think, well, what on earth, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's new to a lot of us. How big a decision is that? How big an impact is that on Australia, the flow-on effect in the next few months?
It's big, because what the Saudis were doing, they've got a pipeline, the East-West pipeline, so because the strait was closed here, they were then sending all their oil down here.
Oh, and it was getting out down here.
So it was getting out down here.
Right.
Now that option is cut off. The only oil that's actually going to come through here is actually Russian oil, because so Russia is able to we've got the Suez Canal, so oil was still able to travel through there. So the Saudis can send oil out from the port of el-Mandeb, and then send up through the Suez, and then right round Africa. But that's going to add 4 weeks. Right. So if it's going to go to Singapore,
which will add to cost as well.
Adds to cost, and so therefore, so let's just say, here's an example. So the oil from Saudi Arabia through el-Mandeb port would go down to Singapore. That normally takes about 3 weeks. But if you're going to add another 4 weeks, it's going to take 7 weeks.
I think we're going to have a look at some of these new routes. So talk us through these new routes here as well that we've got for these shipments now coming through. Here we are. Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Talk us through this.
Okay, so the Saudis could still send the oil out through the el-Mandeb port, and then send it up north through the Suez. Now the problem with that is that the Suez is a very narrow waterway. It's only about 200 metres, and so you can't send the big oil tankers through there. These tankers carry about 2 million barrels of oil, but there is a pipeline that actually goes goes along the side of the Suez Canal. So you can send about 2.5 million barrels through there each day. Okay. But you can only have like a Suezmax or the very big tankers. You could just you've got to lighten the ballast there.
So even though they can get up and out, it's not even as many and as big as ships going, and they have to take the longer route. Yeah.
So it's going to be less, and it's going to take longer, so it's going to be more expensive.
So, Kevin, is this all good news then for Russia? Because obviously they had been slapped with sanctions from many countries around the world now. Is this going to be good news for the sale of their oil and their energy production?
Well, yes and no, because bearing in mind there's still a conflict going on in Russia, and the Ukrainians are able to penetrate deeper and further. And so it's so much so that Russia has actually stopped the export of diesel. Now that's important because Australia is actually the world's biggest diesel importer. So even though we don't buy any diesel straight from Russia, we will be competing with the people that do buy it, and that's Turkey, Brazil, and China.
Okay, and also on the long route around, the 4 to 6 week long route, if they can get out, haven't we got pirates down here? Does that still happen?
Well, yes, but I mean, it's been a while since I've heard any oil tankers being pirated. So it's a possible threat, but you've still got pirates off here as well, the Somali coast. So it's a threat, but it's not going to stop most of the oil traffic.
Okay.
All right. Well, Kevin, thanks for your time this morning, your insights.
Thank you.
Cheers.